Hi, I'm Becky Rose Dungeon Girl, and this is an episode of Ask a Dungeon Mistress, except it's a very special episode for two reasons. Firstly, I have another Dungeon Master in the Hangout. That is the Rogue DM, everybody. Say hello, Rogue. Or possibly not. Hello?
I hear double audio. Can you turn that off?
What the frigging frig? How?
Wait, no, that's me. Never mind. I'm so sorry. I just
No.
totally messed it up. Right, yeah. Anyway, wow. Okay, natural one on technology and computers and whatever. Yeah, my name is the Road DM, aka Jay, and I'm joining Becky on one of her Ask a Dungeon Mistress things. Except it's two, and we can't both be the Dungeon Mistress, so it's a double DM.
Yeah, you need one sub, right? So, this is a show where you get to ask your questions. And if you were watching the other live stream I had a moment ago, things got very technically confusing. It looks like I've messed up my live stream for BrigadeCon. So we're going to start again. So this is where you get to ask questions. So you just go into the YouTube chat and you type, please ask your RPG questions in here. I press enter and it'll pop up on my screen. There you go. Except weirdly, due to the strange way technology works, it appears backwards for me. So let me just flip that round so I can answer questions later. There we go. So I can actually read things. So yes, this is Ask a Double DM. So you get to ask your RPG related questions in the chat and we'll answer them and we'll talk about RPG stuff and whatever thing we did in the last stream where we got it all completely wrong. Well, I say we, I mean me. So yes, they're just confusing and technology. There's always an issue when you go live. But I'm going live tonight with a very special reason. Is because I didn't do a video last week because I've been very busy with life, and I didn't get around to preparing one. And as viewers to my channel know, I usually go and do quite a lot of sort of production work on my videos. I set up scenery, or I go and do stuff on site somewhere. And then I take it all into an edit room. I go do all the editing. So like those 6-minute videos can often take an entire day of filming and stuff. And you know, sometimes I like to go out and get late. So I ran out of videos to release. So occasionally I go live, do this. I go live and take questions. And that's what today is. It's taking questions. So let's just see if we've got any in yet. Here we go. Question from Forbidden Law.
Hey, Johannes.
Oh, you know that this person.
He is an epic Finn with an amazing double beard.
Double beard.
I'm very jealous of.
That's called what? Like the two pointy thing.
Yeah. He's got it like plaited and it's super long.
That is super metal. I'm digging the double beard idea. So okay. So what game are you looking forward to running that you haven't ran yet? Seeing as you know the person, why don't you take this, Jay? Sorry, I was trying to remember the name. I think you said Janice. What?
No, Johannes.
Johannes. Oh, right. Okay. Yes, very Scandinavian name. Go.
Okay. Well, I haven't really had anything in mind to run that's new, but I'll probably run something new for the expo, knowing me. But a couple of things that I haven't run yet. Vampire the Masquerade, as you know. I haven't forgotten about that, by the way. Just kind of life got in the way. I suppose like running regular Cthulhu would be quite nice as well. I've kind of got my eye on the Keeper's Guide, which will hopefully be a nice Black Friday present or possibly Christmas or whatever. Yeah, I'm more about sort of playing the systems I enjoy at the moment. I'm sure I'll get back onto like exploring new stuff, but not right now.
I'm not a massive fan of Vampire the Masquerade though. I quite like the concept. The problem is it's a dice pool system. I don't know if have you played a dice pool system before?
Yeah, I played Ubiquity.
Okay, I just find that it's very slow because you count out how many dice you need. So rather than just picking up and rolling it, then you roll. Then you've got to sort through them, and then because the ones cancel out anything that's 6 or more or 7 or more, whatever the difficulty is, you're removing pairs of dice. Then you've got to count them again, and it's a pain in the neck. It just takes ages. But Vampire actually isn't that bad. I was at a convention once, and this guy had come up with this dice pool system, and I don't think he was a game designer or knew maths terribly well, because what he'd done, he'd created this system where you could have as much as 35 dice in one roll. And this poor guy, yeah, he's trying to roll 35 dice at once into a dice tower because it's too many for a table. And of course, they don't fit in the dice tower, so he's rolling them in batches and then trying to sort out the hits and misses. It was ridiculous. But yeah, for me, Vampire the Masquerade it's a cool concept. I like some of the political stuff, although I usually kind of do my own thing with Vampire when I play it. But the mechanic I'm not overly fond of.
The One Ring has a pretty nice streamlined dice pool system.
Yeah.
It's just a case of you have like these D6 and you have a D12. The D12 you always roll because it has this seal of Gandalf on it, the Gandalf's rune, and the Eye of Sauron, plus several numbers on it, which can help or very much hinder your overall outcome. Then the D6s, they're your pools. So, for example, if you had an ability that was 3 points, you'd roll 3d6, and you just sort of add stuff together and say what you got. And then if you got a Gandalf rune or an Eye of Sauron, you obviously say that as well. Also, there's a couple of encumbered rules. Like, for example, if you get a number with a number that's not filled in. So usually they're right, hold on, let me think. The lower numbers, so like 1, 2, possibly 3, if you are considered encumbered, you don't count those numbers at all. So I think it's really nice and
okay
stuff.
That's cool. I do quite like that thing they do in the Star Wars games where you get those other suggestions to rolls, like, you've got an advantage. They don't call it advantage, disadvantage, do they? That in the Star Wars games they call it something else.
Well,
light and
what
dark
you're
stuff.
talking about.
Yeah, because they're all subtly different,
Do you
aren't they?
Do you mean the Fantasy Flight ones?
Yeah.
You can get advantages, yeah. You get successes, failures, advantages, threats, triumphs, and despairs.
Yeah, that's the stuff I was trying to think of. But I think that's a nice idea, sort of getting those different types of results from the dice. But it always interests me when people say, I don't like having just success and failure on the roll. I want these other options. And I always kind of think to myself, well, if you're rolling a 20-sided dice, actually you've got 20 different results. But that it kind of becomes success and failure because 20 is too many to sort of work out beforehand.
The only thing that I am not quite sure of yet, although bear in mind I haven't read any of the books that go with the Star Wars thing, is how, as a DM, do you determine whether what you're about to say, the outcome that comes into your head, how do you know that is classified as a failure or as a threat? Like, are there certain rules? How do you do that for every infinite outcome? How do you know?
Well, I've not read the book either, so I've not actually played in one of those.
No, but it's something I've thought about. Or are they just sort of saying something like, "Oh, there's this that happens no matter what the dice outcome is, as long as it's negative," something like that.
I think really with that kind of all the systems that give you these multiple different results, you have to just kind of take the inspiration from the result that you've got. So if you've got a result that has a failure and a disadvantage, or sorry, what did you say? Failure and threat. Well, a threat is a looming potential failure. It's something that's looming. It's the potential for something to go wrong. Whereas a failure is something has gone wrong. So you've just got to try and work those into your results somehow. Let's move on to the next question because there's been a load of chat and we haven't caught up at all. So yes, we did play in a game together, Johannes. I'm so sorry, but I didn't know your YouTube name. So that's my excuse.
But it looks so metal.
Yes, so Power Up Gamers Role Playing for Accessibility says, I'm still hoping to run a Microscope RPG for you two sometime. Yeah, that'd be cool. So, yep, Yep, so let's go through. Let's try and find the question. Yes, 35 dice is nuts. It might have been 28. I don't know. It's a massive number. So Forbidden Law says Vampire, like plenty of other games, has interesting setting material, but is designed rather poorly. The dice pool itself is not the biggest issue with the dice pool. Yeah, I'd kind of agree with that, because it's like I said, it's not the worst dice pool I've come across. It does tend to break if you go up too many generations. And the other thing I really don't like about Vampire is it's actually incredibly easy to kill another vampire, because all you have to really do is get a stake in them, and to do that you just need to grapple them. So fights against vampires tend to be grapple stake, and mechanically, certainly I've got the older edition downstairs, but I've got the older edition, so I don't know if they've cleared any of that up since, but it didn't work very well mechanically under certain situations. And of course it's completely unbalanced with the werewolf game and the mage game and everything else. So Ronnie says, I would tend to use the law and use a generic system for it. Oh, I think we're talking vampire there. Yeah, probably, although I'm not overly keen on the generic system. So Curtis Smith says, combat is brutal in Masquerade, love that system. What do you feel about running the pre-made campaigns for various systems, plus or minus some tailoring for your group? I'm not a fan of pre-made campaigns. I'll read them sometimes for inspiration, but Jay and I kind of made a video on this topic where we just dissed them.
Yeah, but I've had like proper experience and stuff, so I feel like I'm allowed to talk about it. I don't know how much experience you've had with modules, really.
Me? I've played in a few. I've never run one. But I have played in a few modules, and they've all been crushingly disappointing. I think it's just they're not tailored to the group, so at all. And harvest them for ideas, because there are some good ideas in modules, but it's not necessarily if you run things to the book. It's not necessarily great. I was running through Mines of Phandelver with a group that was quite enjoyable. I don't know how much of it was Mines of Phandelver and how much of it the GM had just made up. It was quite enjoyable, but at times it did feel rigid and designed for combat. And the opening scene where you go into the goblin tunnels and things, it just there was some weak stuff in there too. So
yeah, Johannes would know because he was in a pre-made campaign of mine, which was a Warhammer campaign called The Thousand Thrones. It was okay to start with, and we did sort of enjoy it overall, but oh my god, it was so laborious. Like, there was just so much stuff that I knew straight away the players were not even going to bother doing because it was just so irrelevant, or I knew that the players would want to do other things that were more interesting. There was quite a lot of stuff that rendered it so the players had no reason to stick together because the story didn't kind of work in that regard. So I had to keep changing stuff and changing stuff and changing stuff, and it just got like harder and harder and harder. So in the end, we kind of ended it quite abruptly, but at least it was sort of the end of a chapter. The only good module I've ever seen, I don't know how good the module itself is because I haven't read it, but my first taste of Warhammer actually was when Sean Connors ran the module, I think it's The Enemy Within, although he called it The Ties That Bind. Again, I don't know how much he kind of made up himself, but it seemed really quite fresh and very fluid, in no way sort of kind of all like a mishmash of stuff or stale or whatever. But then maybe he just knew the campaign inside out.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you play with the same group for long enough, and I've had one group going since I was 16, I think, or something like that, possibly 17, and we still meet less often these days, but we still meet. And we've done modules a few times in that group. I remember one was an OSR type module, and it had a quite interesting trap, and because the GM was running from a module, a lot of the cues we had as a group weren't there. The expectations and the approach this dungeon design had taken wasn't what we were used to. So that was fresh and interesting and killed us. Because we weren't ready for it, you know. So and I think that's something you sometimes come across in modules, is groups that clearly play in a different way. In this case, whoever had written the module was used to killing characters, or entire groups was used to TPKing and didn't mind putting in a trap that TPK'd. And we obviously missed all the subtle clues and did things completely wrong, and we all drowned. And then I had another module game with that same group years later, where we had to do 2 weeks of travel, and there were 2 random encounters a day. And after we played quite long sessions in that group, like 8-hour plus sessions. And it was after, I think, the 3rd one, I said, seriously, can we please stop the random encounters? I just want to get there. I've had enough of 2 random encounters a day. It was always one at dawn, one at dusk, because it was a desert, so nothing came out in the day or the night, too hot and cold. So, and I was like, can we please stop having these random combats 2 a day? And it and the GM said, well, no, actually, no, these aren't all random encounters. Some of these are scripted combats. Like, really? It's all combats? And that's the problem. When you got a module, it's not necessarily in the playing the same way that your group does. And obviously, whoever wrote that module was in a group that liked to do tactical combat. So I think really the best thing with modules is just to read them and take the good ideas and the stuff that works for you, but then rehash that into your own stories. So the random anim guy asks, what's the largest group you have played with? Well, for me, that would be right when I very first started, and I don't know if you'd even count it as role-playing, but probably the biggest was a game of, was it Advanced Hero Quest? I think it was Advanced Hero Quest. We had 12 players in that, which didn't work terribly well at all. It was too slow. But I also did quite a large Shadowrun game. It had about 10 players, and that was a nightmare as well. Because, again, it's just too slow. I prefer to play with somewhere between 4 and 6 people. I think 5's the ideal number. How about you, Jay?
Well, yeah, I suppose I'm kind of a novice with big groups of people, and my biggest quantity has definitely been 6, which I did for all my Expo games last year because I'm incredibly ambitious.
6 is a good number to play with. I think 5 is kind of the sweet spot, but in convention game I'd usually do 6 because you need to take players up from the floor of the convention. But I think when you get beyond that, people are just waiting too long for the go, and as a GM, you become more of a time management rather than telling a story, and things can really bog down in combat as well when you've got that many players. Like, your monsters never get to do anything, and you've got to use a large number of monsters, so there's loads of dice rolling going on. So if you do have combat in a large group, it's just incredibly slow. It can take many hours to resolve a fight, and that's a huge issue, which is why I like to play with 5 is my perfect number. My weekly group or my midweek group is actually just 4, and often one of them's away, so sometimes it's 3. And to be honest, I'd rather have a few more people in that, just to get more variety and more ideas at the table. Because I think 3 people can be, or 3 players on a GM, I think that can get a bit stale because you've got the same personalities tend to got the same things, and they're not bouncing as much off each other because there's so few of them. It would be nice to have more. So yeah, 5 is the sweet spot.
Well, in terms of Hangouts, I completely disagree. I think 3 is a very good number. If 3 players, obviously, if you've got very good players, it works really well, actually. The only problem is if one of them can't make it, then it becomes a huge problem. But when everyone was there, my Dresden Files campaign worked really well with just 3. They all had these sort of big personalities and the characters and blah, 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 which is why I got pissed off during that Expo game of He Who Shall Not Be Named, when he was like freaking out because there were only 3 players and shock horror, oh my god, what shall I do? And it's just like, play the fucking game. It's already past.
Well, the yeah, 3 can be good. I would agree, and I'd say it might suit Hangout more than real life, because I think when you play in real life, you're playing more with people you're friendly with, as opposed to when you play online.
Yes,
you kind of pick of the
yeah.
crop, don't you? So, which is a very polite way of putting it. I'm
Also,
not dissing my friends, but
I suppose if it's very real life and it's kind of really informal and people are like getting up and whatever from time to time to get a drink or something, if there's more characters, then that will keep the flow of the game going a lot better. Whereas in Google Hangouts, you don't really do that, and if you do, it's only very briefly.
I tend to actually, in real life, I tend to do the same thing that I do in a Hangout. Is like we'll have a big break together. We've got smoke, order pizza, etc. Although saying that, people do sometimes just get up to go to the loo and what have you. But I generally I think players sort of leaving the table during play is usually when someone gets up, the whole game pauses for a while in my games, typically. Unless it is just someone just popping quickly to the loo or to get some water or something. But yeah, so anyway, but let's move on to the next question. We've been on that one a while. So
we've got loads.
Have we? Oh, crikey. Right. So I played a game with myself during 14 players in random anime. Ronnie, that's insane. I would recommend a therapist after playing with 14 players. The thing is, if you've got that many people, how do those players individually really are getting such a small slice of time? A couple of minutes an hour. I mean, that works out at what, 6 minutes an hour, less than. So yeah, it's just not much time. So Forbidden Law says the dice pool gets really wonky when you're really good at what you're trying to do. You increase the possibility that you fail spectacularly the better you are at stuff. Totally agree with the ones being, the fail in that. Completely agree. I don't like dice pools. So the random anime guide. To many people, for me, I can't handle the amount of. Oh right, so I was responding to Bonnie. Sorry. No, I learned I couldn't either.
You pronounced it anime.
I said anime, didn't I?
I thought you kept saying anim.
Oh, that's because I read it as anim, not anime. I think. Like, and I said 2 instead of 2. Wrong. The other 2. There's a difference. I do pronounce those words differently. Deal with it.
You're not the first person to pronounce homonyms differently.
I may need to Google homonyms. So, Power Up Gamers for role-playing. So, Power Up Gamers role-playing for accessibility says, what program? Sorry, is that a phone buzzing? Because mine's quite close.
All of mine are off.
Okay, sliding mine further away. There we go.
Let me just double check this thing.
What program would you recommend for use with Google Hangouts that will allow use of mics and sound effects? Well, Google Hangouts does have like 7 or 8 sound effects built in that are all quite rubbish. Well, they're good for a laugh once in a while. I've just seen a question that's coming up. Okay, Katie, I will, but you've got to keep watching. Now, I've got to look something up on my computer. I've also
seen that question.
Because there is something I installed the other day, and I don't know the name of it yet, but it adds sound channels to my computer, and I might sort of do some demonstration on. Well, I won't demonstrate it live, but I might do a screen share so you can see what it does. It's virtual audio. Thanks, Jay. No, I won't do a screen share because it's not relevant, but there's a program called Virtual Audio Cable, which is quite technical to use. It does seem to cost some money, but I think it's like 15 quid or something. I haven't bought it yet, so I'm not 100% sure. But I played around with the demo the other day, and what it allows you to do is take sound from any application, and rather than like when like with Hangouts, for example, you can choose your sound sources. You can point it to a virtual audio cable, and you can do the same with sound out from other channels. So other programs. So you can go to. Oh, I've got to reset the questions. Hang on, that means logging into Googles again. But so you point your sound from some applications out to some channels, and then point you take those cables, virtual cables, and point them into others, so you can route sound around the system. Basically, it is quite involved. It is quite technical. But if you're comfortable digging into, if you're at the level where you can play around with drivers and stuff on your computer, and you can do some of the slightly more operating system level stuff, then you'll have no trouble with it. If you're not that comfortable with computers, it's probably going to break everything. It won't actually be broken. A technical person will be able to sort it, but if you don't have access to a technical person, that's £50 an hour wasted. So that's that. Yeah, so that comes with a semi-recommendation. But in terms of what software to use for sounds, to be honest, I wouldn't really know, because as somebody who used to write computer games, I'm sort of well versed with going through sound libraries and then just knocking up my own soundboard. So, don't know. Got any suggestions there, Jay?
Well, what I usually do, because I actually find Roll20 is such a massive faff, it's been the extent where I know that there is a piece of music on SoundCloud that I want to load in, but the way the search engine works is so weird. It only brings up like the first 10 results of your search, and it's all kind of really shitty house music that's not even mixed properly. So I never use Roll20 anymore for that. It's just so clunky. What I do is I tend to put up like a sort of atmospheric YouTube video that lasts an hour or two. I link it so my players can use it if they want, and then essentially I just do all the sound mixing and stuff and balancing, so obviously it's nice and quiet so it doesn't intrude on speech and blah blah blah. But obviously you can't play it through to YouTube because of copyright, and also I have heard it played through somebody's speakers, which is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. Being an audiophile, it's like torture. Please don't ever do that. It's horrible.
Yeah, I don't do music during live games, but doing online games. But sometimes in a live game, I'll just set YouTube up with, usually what I search for is epic classical or epic orchestral. So you get the kind of high drama music that they use in action films and stuff, with the French horn going and stuff, with really dramatic music.
I have that French horn in there.
Yeah, French horn just makes orchestral music awesome for role playing.
And bass trombone.
Yeah, which is why I often have French horn music on my channel. Whenever I use music, it's usually got French horn in it somewhere, just because that's epic, blood-pumping kind of orchestral music.
I suppose it's because the French horn sounds quite distant in its timbre and makes it sound like a bigger space, whereas a trumpet's more sort of in your face and clear cut, so it sounds like it's the
piercing.
It's like bam bam, so it's like the action's right there and now, but a horn is like sweeping, epic. It's around you, but it's not in your face. I've just been teaching music for 8 hours. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Ronnie says, I'm looking forward to this possible series of one-shots for smaller, less well-known systems that Becky is considering. Yes, so did I mention that on this stream or the one where I completely messed things up?
No. I don't know about it, really.
Right, okay, so what's happening on my channel with live plays? Because my campaign ended, The Return of the Winged Trinity, after 19 episodes, and it is no more. That's the end of the story. Ardus went off into the future, the other players went off into the past, and died, or whatever it is they did in the past. So what's happening is I'm going to be doing some live plays on the channel again, but I've decided it's not going to be games that I run. I'm going to play in some games with guest GMs, and I'm going to get some guest GMs in who run not 5e, or you can use 5e, but really what I'm interested in is games with a really cool concept, something different, something unusual that people haven't normally seen. So whether that's with some crazy idea like I'm running for BrigadeCon, where I've got my Pokemon D&D game, or whether it's an indie system, something obscure like Monster Hearts, or one of those systems that doesn't normally get any attention. That's what I'm interested in just giving some airtime to, really, on my channel. So I'm going to get some GMs in. The person I have in mind to run that first one is somebody who ran the best convention game that I've ever played in. There, Katie, I've said it. And I know you're watching. So, yes, I'm going to get Katie in. I hope to. We did speak about it a month or two back, and I've neglected to get back in touch because I've been busy doing life and stuff. Which, so yes, but it's coming. It'll happen, Katie. I promise. I will talk to you soon, and we'll get that organised. And so I'm going to have I want to get some fresh blood in to play some of the games, and some of the old familiar faces, of course, will be there too. I just want to mix things up, really. So that's coming. Ronnie, you're certainly somebody I've got in mind because I know you love some really weird, obscure games. But these are one-shot games. These are single session, 3-hour type or 4-hour type convention games. So it's no multi-session. There's no capacity to be broadcasting that. It's a single session. Bam, guest GM, players that people I know from the community and stuff. We'll get them in, we'll play a game, and of something weird and obscure. So it'll need prep in the sense that because it's a 3-4 hour playtime, it'll have to be pre-gen characters and stuff. And of course, they're obscure games anyway, so it's not like the players will have the game to even gen characters. So yeah, like a convention game, but as a one-shot on my channel with weird systems and guest GMs. That's what's coming. I do need to ask Chepe, really, don't I? He is the king of niche. He's the niche punk master. So I've got to ask Chepe. Okay, so next thing. I despise pre-made campaigns other than nicking the maps. Well, sometimes they do have good ideas, but I'm in complete agreement. Coffee in hand from the Mapronomicon.
Mapronomicon, that's such a cool name.
It's a cool name. Let's see. Next question. It's not loading the next question. Come on. Good conversation. Why, thank you very much. Next question. So Ronnie says, the Warhammer campaign was good for what I was in, but I did get trapped by its own linear nature. Again, campaigns, modules, bad.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It was kind of like a downward spiral.
Oh, I'm sure it could. I'm sure it was a gentle slope.
Oh well, no, I don't mean in terms of the way I ran it, but in terms of the story, it's just like it's just getting more dire as it goes along. I cannot undo what I have done.
So Curtis Smith says, this is obviously on the subject of modules again, things tend to diverge from the book rather quickly. Yeah, that can happen, and then of course you're left stranded as the GM, or I would say you're freed as the GM. But I tend to think of the modules as timelines that the players have to deal with. It's an interesting approach. I guess it depends on the module as to exactly whether that's workable or not. But yeah, I can see that working with some of them, but I'd just rather avoid modules completely. So Forbidden Law says, Thousand Thrones was great fun, but very little of that was due to the fact that it had a sweeping background plot going on. I feel we manufactured our own fun with inter-character moments. I'm leaving this for you, Jay. It's your campaign.
I just said down below, let's be honest, the sweeping background plot was definitely a thing, and it wasn't even very good. It took me a long time to actually understand it from a GM's point of view. It gave this massive prologue about all this stuff like, oh yeah, there's these vampires and there's those vampires and they all want different things, and then there's this crazy woman who is like half demon or something, and she was killed, and then she sort of managed to survive as like a husk in this cave, and then she found out the secret to immortality, haha, and it involved this little Messiah kid who was convinced he was the Messiah, but I don't think he was. It's like the twist isn't even very good. It's like,
well, it sounds, if you've got like lots of different power groups going on and stuff, the video you really need to watch. It is one I did myself. It's called Managing Sandbox Campaigns, and that says how I solve or how I run a game where you've got multiple power bases.
Oh yeah. if it was sandbox, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But the book insisted, like, no. This group comes in at this point, and this group comes in a bit later, and blah blah blah.
That's too,
Like, oh my
that's too
god.
complicated to do in the module form, because like when you're
It
doing a
is.
session, you don't want to stop to read the module to get your facts right, and if you mess it up, you're gonna break stuff.
Yeah,
So
that is essentially the whole story of my life back then. I had to read it so extensively, it was insane.
So Ronnie agrees that he enjoyed the character interaction in that campaign too. So Mapronomicon talking about the largest groups, so 12 or 13.
Whoa.
Yeah, big groups. Yes, the same amount. It is a hard number to play with. It's just too many. So Forbidden Law, not enjoying dice balls and playing Shadowrun with 10 people sounds like a recipe for disappointment. Not my worst experience with Shadowrun. My very first time playing Shadowrun, first week generated characters. And I generated this character that liked to get up close and personal. I think I had a sword and a pistol or something. Second week, GM starts us off. Right, you're in a warehouse. Put yourself on the map. No introduction yet. It's just put yourself on the map. Right, okay, I'll be there. Right, okay. Then he runs a combat. And I had randomly placed myself one part of the warehouse that was nowhere near any enemies. So I had to run across open ground, being shot at all the way by these enemies. And there were 6 people, I think, or thereabouts in this particular Shadowrun game. And that session was, what, 4 hours, I think. We played 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. back then. So, yeah, that was a 4-hour session. By the end of 2 weeks' time, I'd managed to get across to the other side of the room, slightly wounded, and rolled my first attack dice to try and chop somebody up. And that was it. It took 2 weeks to run from one side of the room to the other. That was my first experience of Shadowrun. I loved the setting. The system was shit. I mean, this is some years ago, so it's an older edition of Shadowrun, first, possibly second. But back then, it dealt with time in segments of a second, because you had all these automatic weapons and stuff. Yeah, it was terrible. Really, really. I mean, 8 hours sat there running across a room. It's not good. Not good. So, next question. Katie says, "Hi, Becky. Tell us about your FaveCon game." Only joking. Serious question, though. Have either of you ever had someone cause an issue or treat you differently because you are female GMs? I've not had it as a GM, but I have had it as a player from GMs as well. One that really annoyed me was a GM was running a Savage Worlds game on Mars and uttered the words, "Of course, back then women didn't have rights." I'm just going to leave that dangling there. And I've heard that sentiment quite a lot in fantasy role-playing games, where people sort of treat fantasy games as if it's the past. It's like, no. And if you're just saying categorically in all fantasy games women never have right in all fantasy worlds, then fuck you. I get annoyed by that. Very annoyed when the default position is it's forgotten the word. There's a word for it. Patriarchy. Got there. And I don't think it makes it okay to say that somewhere in the world is a dark elf matriarchy under the ground, and they're really sexist. That doesn't make it okay. That was D&D's answer to years of sexism. But then again, D&D is the game that has chromatic and metallic dragons, so all the coloured dragons are evil. Not a good example. It suffers from its history in that sense. So to me, it's down to the world setting. I'm okay with NPCs being sexist. I'm okay with a region that has laws that don't give women equal rights. I'm not okay with the default for every game you run, every world you create being a patriarchy, and that bothers me a lot. Yeah, that annoys me. Annoys me a lot. Like if a GM has had 20 NPCs in a campaign and they were all straight, then that's a not representative selection of sexualities. Now, I'm not saying that a GM has to include gay characters, and certainly I never include sex scenes in my games. But and certainly some GMs, if they did have a gay character, would play that so badly it would be horrific. But it is a matter of representation. You know, if you've been role playing for 20 years and you've never had a gay NPC or a character you thought of in your mind as having a male character having a husband or female character having a wife, if you've never had that in your mind and you've never had a world where that was even possible, then that's heteronormative. You're adhering to defaultism, and you might want to think about that. Just saying. You know, if I'm not saying Katie's that person. Katie is actually an awesome GM. I've played in 2 of Katie's convention games, and they're both up there amongst my favourites. So yes, I did mention my favourite con game of all time. It was. I have talked about this a couple of times on my channel before. This particular convention game that just really tickled me, where we were playing people from an office. It's a modern day game. We were on a works outing, team building exercise, and stuff went down, and I didn't expect it. It was such a surprise. I would never have signed up for it because, like, what's that? You know, it's just like it was the only game with some slots left. I was like, whatever. There's nothing else to do. But turn up. Katie says, "Look, please don't expect too much. It's the first time I've ever GM'd." Best fucking game I'd ever played. It was amazing. Moving on. That's enough of your ego stroked. Roll20 is good, and that has some music availability. I haven't used it a lot though. How bad was the worst campaign you ran and played in? I've got to choose.
Oh.
Why didn't you go first, Jake?
I'm just trying to think of campaigns I've played in. I can't really think of any that would be deemed bad, really, in any way. And I don't personally think that any of my campaigns have been bad. I know that, like, compared to the first campaign I ran, I'm hoping that my quality of campaign running is a lot better now than it was. But I don't think that it was bad per se. I can think of quite a few, well, not quite a few, but I can think of certainly a few one-shots I've been in that have been utterly shite. So why don't we stay on the subject of doing nothing for ages, okay? So this was a Call of Cthulhu game. Late at night as well, so that didn't really help. But essentially, we were in France investigating these murders that had happened. I'm assuming it was 1920s. He never actually specified, I don't think. We started off at the police station. Okay, fine, nice sort of default place you start. We were essentially just sort of asking questions before we go off. Well, basically, I'd come up with some ideas from a couple of questions that had been raised. So I thought, okay, why don't we try this church, because there's something about this gargoyle that sounded a bit funny. So and there were a couple of other places as well, and the players didn't really help in that they didn't also sort of address it either. But the GM just did fuck all about it. And then at times, like, I would say, okay, well, I'll actually go to the crime scene. And then he would, like, describe it in 2 sentences. You go to the crime scene and you have a look around, but you don't find anything. And then you kind of appear back at the stage. Right. Anyway, 2 hours passed and we hadn't left the fucking police station yet. And then when we finally did, and I was, like, ready to actually, like, rage quit and stuff, he's like, okay, now we'll take a short break.
God, that's just... No. But the problem I have with this is that I'm still friends with I know what the worst game I played in was a campaign, but it was a game. But the thing is, I like the person involved, just not a very good GM. And I don't know if I really want to name that on air, but I'll give you an example of if every single NPC you spoke to turns around. That's the description given for the NPC. It turns around and says, "Now, imagine that 5 times in a conversation, and try if you can to imagine." Because I like to imagine what's happening. I like to see it in my mind. I'm quite a visual thinker in that way. So I like to picture the conversation happening, and what I'm seeing is a conversation where the NPC turns around and talks a little bit, and then I've got to get on camera. Hang on. And then, whilst talking, turns around in order to carry on talking, and is now continuing to talk to me facing the other way, but then turns around again. And it was like that all night. Every NPC turns around and says, I did wonder if in his mind it was the dramatic thing of, really? But then they never actually completed the turn. Maybe they were doing something. I understand.
Maybe they were thinking about those really old, like PS1 or PC games where the NPC would be in a static place, and if you were a bit off, it would have to turn, like, and then face them, and then go back.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, good. That just because of the description issues really. There were a few other problems as well, which sort of makes it think possibly the worst game I was in. But worst campaign had to be that module. I think I did describe that earlier on this stream and not the first aborted stream. I think. So yes,
yeah,
it was this stream. Yes. I'm getting confused. I first attempt to stream this was a disaster. Roll20 no longer has SoundCloud integration. SoundCloud changed the terms of service. Yeah.
Ooh.
The end for Roll20. Right. Okay, I'm going to touch then. I'm not sure what that's in response to. Sorry.
Roll20, I think.
Okay. Yes, because Katie did raise Roll20. So for Binlaw, it does have looping ambient stuff from tabletop audio, though. I've used those in my real life games as background music for a while, and they're pretty good. The only problem I have with, I don't know specifically about tabletop audio, but a lot of these RPG soundboard things have a bit of an issue in that you might have like 5 or 10 minutes of audio, but role-playing games go on for like 4 hours.
Yeah,
you know, or longer. My real games often longer.
If I do a fantasy game in real life, or we used to do this a lot, I just put on like some power metal albums.
Yeah, I chuck YouTube on with autoplay, and like I say, do the epic classical thing.
And then like albums usually last between an hour and a half, so you put on a few of those and you're fine, good to go. Or you could be really crazy and just put on like 4 albums by the same band.
You've got to all like the band.
Power metal overload. Yeah, luckily we did all like the band, but still.
Ronnie says, I like 2 kinds of music in games. Atmospheric music, or music that is suitable for the period. So for Call of Cthulhu, I think I just summoned him by accident by missing his name. For example, I like both creepy music for atmosphere and also jazz and ragtime. That's great if I could stand jazz and ragtime. My granddad was a jazz musician. I got dragged all over the country to go and see gazillions of concerts when I'd rather have been at home programming my computer. And I grew to resent jazz.
You just got the spirit of jazz in you.
No. With the entire holidays following him around on tour. Don't get me wrong, loved my granddad to pieces, bless him, when he was alive. And he was fantastic. He was well known in jazz, used to get recognised in the street and stuff like that, but not in Britain, because jazz is pathetic in Britain. Although he was known in the jazz community. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Irrelevant. I'm not going to name drop. So, but I can't stand it. My skin, I break down inside. It's like being dissolved in acid internally when I hear jazz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I just can't get on with that Nightwish song from Imaginarium.
I know. Even though it's not really jazz per se, just apart from the instruments used and the fact it's swing, it's not really jazz. But hey, I really like it. It's a beautiful sound. It's
Yeah,
got such a
whatever.
good trumpet solo in it at the end, and I love how it links so well into the next song with the speeds and the cross rhythms and yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
granddad's instrument, just saying, or cornet usually, but yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
the person who played it was really good. But what I was going to say on the music thing was, yeah, I also have like authentic stuff. So usually when we do a Clockwork Opera, or aka Clockwork Saga, I usually have Abney Park on in the background, which are a steampunk band, and they're so cool. Or Steam Powered Giraffe is another one I like to put on. Then also for the Shadows of Esteren campaign, I had this sort of eerie Celtic soundtrack music playing, which was really cool. Kind of like Lord of the Rings, but darker and a bit more like all the Rohan music, but darker. It was really cool. And
yeah,
horror, obviously, really creepy horror music.
but yeah. Even though my headset does give me independent volume controls for system sound and the Hangout sound, I don't think I want music going on when I'm on a headset because two sounds in the headset once. But I know you're an audiophile and you're just you wouldn't exist without music. I think. I think if we
Hell
press
no.
pause on every album music in the world, you would just fade like Ardus did in the
I
Return of
think
the
I
Dream
would,
Thief.
yes.
Yeah. So Power Up Gamers role playing for accessibility, pimping Microscope again. Man, you love that game, don't you?
I think it does.
So next question, it's Love Heart. Sorry, I double clicked but went past Katie's Love Heart. So right, Forbidden Law says I'd be down for Monster Hearts or any other powered by the Apocalypse games if you need people to play them. Oddly enough, I'm not a big fan of the Apocalypse system. I think it's mathematically unsound because it encourages gaming the mechanics. For example, it's a 2d6 system. Where the average roll, of course, on 2d6, or sorry, not the average roll, the modal roll is 7, right? On 2 dice, the most common result is 7. You need 10 to succeed, and in the things you're good at, you get +2. So that means your modal result is a partial success, not an absolute success, unless you do things in pairs where you can assist each other and grant a bonus, and that gets you into the success range. So what tends to happen as a consequence of the system, as the players know this, they break up into pairs so they can assist each other in everything they do. Or, because it's a very loose system in the way that it plays, players tend to describe to do more than what they want to accomplish in order for the partial success to accomplish for them. For example, I was in a situation where I had to rustle 2 horses, so I tried to rustle all of the horses, got a partial success, the GM gave me 2. And I think when you've got a system that encourages you to break it in that way, because it's mathematically unsound, then that's kind of broken. Having said that, Case's Monster Hearts game was brilliant. The reason it was brilliant was because there was barely any dice rolling in it. All good sessions have very few rolls. The final combat did take a little while. I wasn't in it. I actually, to be honest, by that point in the evening, I was really bloody tired. But the problem is that's where the partial successes came in, and we nearly lost the whole thing because the Slayer nearly lost the fight. So yeah, to me, the Apocalypse system isn't a good system. I love the idea of Monster Hearts, and as I said, Katie did run a really good game of that for me at a convention. So yeah, there are some wonderful little games around the Apocalypse system. I just think they need a gameplay designer in to fix the mechanics. I don't understand why fundamentally broken mechanics keep spawning loads of clones. D&D 3.5 did it. Why did the 20D20 system take off? It wasn't a good system. I don't understand why it was successful. White Wolf's system is a terrible system, and there's loads of you got werewolf, you got mage, you got all the other stuff. It was a bad system. Why did that take off? Numenera, not a brilliant system. The Cypher system, it's
all
not
right.
the worst.
No.
It's certainly not. It's not revolutionary. It's not. Basically, you play a speed character. Is how you win that game. Speed character with a reasonable strength pool.
I played a fighter essentially.
Yeah, but you see, if you play a speed character, all of your actions when you're attacking can come out of your speed pool, and then you use your strength pool for your defense. So your primary defensive pool is your might. So by playing a speed character, you can burn your pools without taking any statistical disadvantages. So again, a game that encourages you to break it due to its own mathematical weaknesses, which I find problematical as a programmer and as a mathematician. I really don't like that kind of thing. So Kenny says, I love Monster of the Week. That's probably my fave powered by Apocalypse game at the moment. I haven't played that one. So how about that's the game you run? I think you just nominated yourself to run that game on my channel as a guest GM.
Congratulations.
You have been chosen. Ronnie says, Dungeon Slayers or Fortune's Gold would be my first thought, or even Cult for a one-shot. I think I've played any of them.
Please, Cult, please, Cult, please, Cult, please.
Okay. Please. You have been nominated as my second guest GM, Ronnie, and you'll be running Cult.
Yeah, but he knows I've wanted him to run Cult for like so many years and what. Yeah, it looks so good, and they're like, Dante's a massive fan, and they've like relaunched it through Kickstarter, so he's kind of drooling over that at the moment. I'm just trying to ignore it because I won't be able to afford it.
Yeah, there's so many Kickstarters I'm ignoring at the minute. I've had an expensive couple of months, and I'm not looking, even though the stuff I really want that I know is on that I was waiting for the Kickstarters on, and I'm like, can't do it. So Katie has said, Dogs in the Vineyard is also... See, this is why I want some guest GMs on my system. They come up with this weird shit that no one's heard of. Apparently not quite as good as a one-shot. So, but yeah, just weird. I've never heard of that. Never heard of it.
Neither have I. Although it did remind me of Pugmire, which was pretty cool. That was a one-shot I played on the Gentleman Gamers channel, which is essentially like D&D, but you play dogs. Like fantasy dogs.
That does sound awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard of that one at least.
Oh yeah. I think I talked to you about it. But the only problem at the moment, anyway, I don't know if they're going to change it, is that the enemy of the dogs are the cats. The cats are the evil characters.
But they're always going to win then, because cats are better.
Yeah, but we managed to overthrow them in the end. This sly cat with like big Persian cat with a big long bushy tail.
Yeah. You see,
But I was a cute Yorkshire Terrier who was a priest and tried to like brainwash everybody.
But I'm going to move
like
my camera
strange,
here,
convoluted New Age stuff.
I'm sure regular viewers will know, and I've been painting these for ages. I've still not quite finished them, if I can get them in range. But I have loads of like anthropomorphic animal miniatures, like absolutely tons. No system to play them with. So there we go. Here's a. Do I have? It's Yorkshire. Oh, it's like a goat. Sorry.
Like I said, Pugmire would totally work with those miniatures.
It would, except I've got like loads and loads of different animals as opposed to lots of dogs and cats. But I do have some cat. I've got about 5, and I've got more dogs. There needs to be more sculptors that are cat people. I'm like looking at you. Oathsworn and Darksword, the anthropomorphic animals I have. Anyway, I've just adjusted the height on my chair. Forbidden Law says, it's actually to Katie, but I'm desperate to get the sprawl going on. Delicious cyberpunk action. It does Shadowrun better than Shadowrun, in my opinion. I think Shadowrun is a fantastic setting, but every single game ever is better than it mechanically. But what Shadowrun has, which is kind of cool, is the whole Splatbook thing. And I think a really good system for that is Corporation. Like, if you want weird weapons and stuff and books of awesomeness and stuff, then Corporation is the system. I wonder who I know that runs Corporation that could be a guest GM on my channel. Yeah, so Jay, you've been nominated as the third GM.
I was going to say, why did you go quiet for that awkward length of time?
The worst situation I had was my very first RPG, and it took us a 3-hour session to climb over rocks and get onto a boat just to find there was nothing there. It sucked.
Why? Why? That's almost as bad as Space Carrots.
What?
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Okay.
No.
Right. There's a guy who is kind of on and off in the brigade at the moment, but he's got an awesome beard. He was in a game. I can't remember what system it was. One that I've never played, but some kind of sci-fi system. Actually, no, it was Travel. That was it. And apparently, he spent an entire session, like 6 hours, just food shopping, because they were going out into deep space for like several years, and they needed food. But the DM insisted that they actually bought all the food that they would ever need.
Right, and was he like, checking what's perishable and
Yes,
storage?
yes, the
Right.
DM was asking them to do that.
And
so yeah, meat and stuff like that, they had to check to make sure that it was okay and blah blah blah. And
right, so is this a game with like multiple refrigerator options and deep freeze?
well, they had to think about how to like dry freeze it or something. I don't know.
Right, I see.
But
I see.
It's 6 hours of his life.
And how many players were in this game? Do you know?
There were about 5 or 6, I think.
Okay, so why did 5 or 6 people not rage quit? I just said, what the hell? Seriously? But also, the thing about Katie's thing there is, there is that thing in D&D with never get on the boat, which is kind of a joke thing with D&D, because, the GM's putting you on the boat because the monster manual is full of all these aquatic creatures they never get to use. So they put you on a boat, get out the aquatic creatures, like, ha, Aboleth. And so how did you manage to get? That must be the first boat ever you got on with nothing there, or maybe they were just being ironic about the in joke of D&D.
Did you have to make a roll to find every like foot and handhold or something?
I'm staggered, but what these GMs need is to be directed to my channel to get advice. Watch all of my advice videos, and indeed yours. Yes. Your turn's kind of awesome, actually, and I say that as the camera woman on some of your most recent videos. I'm totally down with that.
They are pretty cool.
They are pretty cool. It's awesome to have a camera person, actually, because
it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, just like the finished shots. Just I really love that. I love watching the finished results in your videos. It's just so polished and stuff with the camera moving. Anyway, sorry. Ronnie says, completely agree regarding better representation. Wow, how much chat are we behind on? I have no idea. In fantasy games, I never default to assumptions. If I set in our own world, I do place some of the restrictions into the... Yeah, it's fair enough. Nobody's expecting every setting to be egalitarian and left-wing socialism and stuff.
I mean, for one thing in Hollow Earth, I don't always like insert sexism or racism, but I just kind of hold it in my mind as it would have been like that, in that kind of setting. So if something did crop up, I might throw in a little bit of sort of mild racism or whatever as part of the setting, and the same with like Call of Cthulhu, but I would never sort of force it in or anything like that.
Mm. I mean, I'm not against. I even played. I mean, my regular viewers will probably know I'm a bit left wing, but I played a fascist in your campaign. So
exactly.
In my own world setting, I have some fascist dwarves. They do exist. A whole city of fascists. But I also have whatever I call my capital city, Moraine Archipelago City, which is very liberal, but it's not about one outbalancing the other. It's about always having one, but this is medieval times. Of course, it's sexist and racist. No,
yeah, exactly.
No, this is a fantasy world. Yes, Matt, you are late to every single live stream ever, and when if you do come to UK Games Expo, which I know you were talking about doing next year, I will arrange to meet you, and I will be late.
Yeah.
Okay. So Katie said, thanks. Yeah, please don't think I'm actually that egotistical. The game was hilarious. No, of course not. I know you're not egotistical at all. That's of course a reference to the bracketed text earlier, best convention game, etc., etc. But there has been some stiff competition on that, Katie, and there is a good chance that game might get knocked off if it could happen. So next time you say that, just be careful. I might say a completely different game. All right, so Ronnie says, so your aversion to jazz could help creep you out of your Cthulhu then? No, it could help me punch the amplifier repeatedly and kick until it breaks.
Yeah. That's a bit like if someone just, those guillotines you get in offices, the noise that they make just jars me so much, actually makes my brain hurt. So yeah, if you use one of those as a soundtrack, then yes, I would punch you in the face. It's a bit different from like making you mildly unsettled. Yeah, so that's another thing you don't want to do when you're around me. Use guillotines.
Okay. Okay, I'll try to remember that.
I physically flinch, and people go, huh? What?
I know the sort of really high-pitched sounds can do that too. I've seen that. Right, so Ronnie says, I like Midnight Syndicate, are good for atmospheric albums. I don't know them myself, but recommendation for you there, Jay.
Syndicate, but yeah, I'll have a look.
Kelly says, I'm okay with sound effects, but I don't like background music in games. I find it difficult to separate background music from people talking, so it distracts me massively. On headphones, I completely agree. In a real-world setting, though, I'm completely fine with that. It's just like, a bit of background. I often, actually, when I'm gaming in my own house, my sound system's actually in a different room, which does help isolate the sound quite a lot. But the door's open, so the sound carries through, so it's just sort of there in the background. Not a question, Jay. Right, so Forbidden Law says, I think your experiences with Powered by the Apocalypse games might be unfavorably tinted by the people not grasping the rules. To be honest, sounds like a problem with the person emceeing them. Well, it's mathematics. My problem is mathematics. So I don't know. I've had good experiences of the system, but I think they were good experiences in spite of the maths. But I did cover my issues with the maths earlier, so I hope you picked up on that. System is in the 7 to 9 result space. Partial system isn't meant to be you don't get what you want. It's you get it, but this happens also. Exactly. I see what you're saying. Like the partial, right? Yeah. Okay. It's a matter of situation, though, isn't it? And the options you give. But anyway, Ronnie, Cult is essentially Call of Cthulhu, but not as fluffy. Okay.
Yeah. So I hear it's quite violent in some ways, but that's not why I'm playing it. I just like horror a lot.
I think I mean the Call of Cthulhu is I wouldn't say fluffy.
I suppose it depends.
Unless it means the background lore, there isn't as much of it or something. I don't know. What do you mean by fluffy?
The thing is, he means like cuddly and approachable, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
So it means that Cult is really not anything like but just sort of as a side note, obviously Cthulhu has become like a massive cult thing. So now you get like cute little chibi Cthulhus and stuff like that, so it's really adorable. And when I was trying to get into Cthulhu, I'm just like, what is all this? Why is there a cute Cthulhu? Why is there Cthulhu for president? Why is there Cthulhu loops on like cereals and stuff? Why is all this?
My profile picture on Facebook for a while was a Cthulhu cat. And I now have a Cthulhu cat model, totally different to that one. It's not painted yet. I've started. Well, I put a little bit of green down. I can't see myself. Where am I? There I am. So that is a Cthulhu cat.
Nice.
Beginnings of.
The kind of vibe I'm getting, though, from Cult is it's kind of more raw, both psychologically and physically, whereas Cthulhu, okay, it's still horror, but you're also solving mysteries usually, and what the horrors are could either be interpreted as being completely in your head, or if they do happen, it's sort of almost fantasy based because it's all about monsters and whatever. Whereas I'm sure Cult could be, you know, yeah, it could be a lot of things that are more based in the real world, from what I gather.
Okay, so I mean,
I think that's what it is.
I mean, Cthulhu. Well, all role-playing games are what you do with them, of course. But you know, Cthulhu certainly does lend itself to investigative. But I haven't played Cult, so not until Ronnie runs it for us as a one-shot on my channel. So I'll find out then, I guess. So Forbidden Law says the point being to continually escalate the situation, not handing out hard failures. So that'll be in relation to the apocalypse system. So Phil B says, "Hi guys, sorry I'm late in the middle of a Savage Worlds game." Is that you multitasking, Phil? Are you playing the Savage Worlds game now? Savage Worlds is a curious system. If you've done the initiative thing in it, where you get the deck of cards, and then when you get a certain card, I can't remember which one, is it Joker or is it Jack? I can't remember. But anyway, then the all get shuffled again and stuff.
I've never played Savage Worlds.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I tell a lie, Johannes. I am looking forward to playing Savage Worlds because I've never played it, and Ronnie wants to do some, and I have always sort of seen it like sort of looming out of all the big role-playing games, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, Savage Worlds. I haven't tried you yet.
I've quite enjoyed what I've played of it. The problem is the person I knew that used to run Savage Worlds had a bit of a habit of starting new games. So he'd turn up. He always liked to run the games. If he played in the game, he'd get bored, and then he'd break out a rulebook and generate characters for next session.
For God's sake.
And then when he ran games, he'd get bored and start another one. To the extent that there was one occasion where he even did it on 2 consecutive weeks. It's like, we just created characters. Can't we just use those ones?
Oh, wow.
Oh no, this is a different game.
If he was getting bored with his own games, maybe he should maybe have a think about how he's GMing them and what's actually in the game and stuff.
So it was quite frustrating. So I did get to play Savage Worlds several times, but I never got to finish an adventure. Katie says, Dogs in the Vineyard is great. You play a Mormon gunslinger in Utah and you go around smiting demons.
Wow, that sounds really cool.
Really?
Yeah. Just a bit weird and wacky and
sure
stuff.
How I feel about playing a Mormon. Mormons are the polygamists that funded all the anti-gay stuff, saying that non-traditional marriage is a sin, and yet they're polygamists.
Well, yeah, but it's like when you have, for example, in Hollow Earth, you quite often get one of these priests that goes around with a shotgun and blah, 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 and they'll obviously think controversial things as well.
Maybe I just don't get them. I do like Lindsay Sterling, who's a violinist who happens to be a Mormon. So I'm not that against them. Just I don't get the concept of Mormonism.
I don't either.
A friend of mine recently got me Interface 0 for Savage Worlds, so I can use that to run Shadowrun. Okay, so like Savage Worlds Shadowrun. Yeah, I think it's just.
You can also do Acton Cthulhu with Shadowrun. Shadowrun, Savage Worlds.
Hang on. Cthulhu with Savage Worlds.
Yeah, it's called Acton Cthulhu. You can either use the regular Cthulhu rules or you can use Savage Worlds.
Well, there's lots of crossovers like that now, though, isn't there? And I think systems are kind of becoming a little more generic in that sense. But I think that, to some extent, to me, that's kind of shows the weakness of some of these systems. Like, if your system could just be applied to any game, then it's really not that bound to that type of setting, which isn't necessarily a strength. Like in my own the game I've been writing, for example, there's no way you'd be able to take that mechanic. Also, there's no way you'd be able to take the rules and use it in another setting. You could take the mechanic, but then the conversion work would be quite a lot. Because the character generation is very interwoven into the type of setting, and I think for me, role playing is about the characters. You've got to make rich characters. You've got to be able to do it quickly, and so I think when games are sort of that easily portable, that there's all these crossovers, I think that's a sign of a weakness. personal opinion. Maybe I'm on my own on that one. So Katie says, yep, we had to roll for everything, and the worst part, this will be the climbing over the rocks thing to get to the boat that took 3 hours. The worst part was that he tried to make us roll to get back again, but we did draw the line there. It nearly put me off role-playing as a hobby. I'm not surprised. That sounds appalling. And there are GMs out there who, GMs have to learn too, is the thing. And sometimes they really don't know what should be rolled for and what shouldn't, and they've got to learn this stuff if they're going to be a GM. And for me, a dice roll is a decision that could branch the story in one or two ways. It's about branching the story, except when it's in combat, which is just combat, and you do that occasionally to I don't know, waste some time and roll some dice where you think of the next bit of the story, which is crop the next NPC and stuff. So yeah, and so of course, as a consequence of you've got to start somewhere, there are of course terrible GMs. I just say point them at my channel and Jay's and get them to learn. So there's so many advice videos on YouTube though, and there's bigger channels than mine, some of which I quite like. Okay, next question. Forbidden Law. I guess we should be asking more questions since it's a question show. There are indeed a lot of statements as opposed to questions, but we're managing. It's a conversation.
But they're discussing statements, so
yeah, we're having a discussion. I think us two are actually a long way behind the chat though, so I don't know what people are actually talking about.
It is starting to fizzle out now, actually.
Okay, well that's good because it's getting quite late in the day, and I do want to sleep at some point. So Finlaw said, so how do you go about forming the initial idea for a campaign? That's a good one. Sometimes I draw a map and I start with the map. Sometimes I don't know where inspiration comes from. Like the Pokey D&D game that I'm running for Brigade Con, which you can get tickets to participate in on October the 15th. Tickets don't cost anything, but a donation to Child's Play is recommended because that's the chosen charity of Brigade Con, and Child's Play puts games into hospitals for kids to play who are dying and stuff. So it's a good cause. They do spend 90% of their money on American hospitals. So us in the civilized world, it's a very good idea to give to Child's Play because we can teach them what medicine and healthcare should actually be like. Yeah, inspiration just hit. And in the case of the Poker D&D game, I just got home from work. When I get home from work, I usually like to make myself a mocha. I put my cup on the thing, on the machine, and I went, Pokey D&D! A bit like that. I can't tell you what thought process led to that epiphany moment. Where I go from there is the bit that my conscious mind is aware of. And that's a whole part. How do I plan and so forth. And obviously, I'm very much ad hoc GM. That one I have to plan because I've got to prep characters and stuff. So I haven't done it yet though. So, but yeah, I often if it's a fantasy campaign, I'll start with the map. My book, I started with the map, and just kind of built things. And as I draw things on the map, I'm thinking of the lore and stuff, and the factions involved, and the cultures, and that in turn brings history and conflict into it, and I go from there. That's certainly a handy approach for sandbox. For a one-shot or a short adventure, I tend to think in terms of encounters. I want an encounter for this, and then I want options on encounters for this, or this. How about you, Jay?
It's varied quite a lot between campaigns. I suppose the thing about A Clockwork Opera was that was the first like homebrew campaign I'd done and finished it and blah blah blah. Whereas the other two, there was already like pre-existing material, and then the Thousand Thrones one was like, this is the campaign, you must run it. So with me, I kind of thought, I have kind of got a nice desire to run a steampunk campaign in D&D because it worked last time when I was playing in it. And then Ronnie was like, yeah, you should totally go for it, because I wasn't really sure And then it was one morning, and I think maybe it is a coffee thing. I don't know, because I think I was getting coffee, or it was around the time to get coffee. And I just saw this M in my head that I think was on a suitcase that someone was carrying. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I just started imagining this sort of panoramic shot of a city. And I'm just like, oh, this is actually really cool. Like the M, that's going to have a meaning. Okay, what is the M? And then I started working out what that was. And then came about the United Empire of Marira and all that stuff. And then I made up the details, and then I made up the place name and blah, and the history, or some of the history. It's not completely done yet. I know you say I've really fleshed out this world, but I really haven't actually.
It's all for show, darling. Don't spoil the illusion. But you know what? I played in that campaign, as you know, and it is right up there as one of my all-time favourites, possibly even my favourite campaign ever. There was just so much drama, so much comedy. It was a brilliant campaign, and I'm so looking forward to the second season starting on Friday at 9 p.m. BST. Over on Jay's channel.
That's getting beer, especially, which means now I have to get beer. Not that I wasn't going to get any anyway. But...
Well, of course you were going to have beer for it. There's just like no way you weren't, right?
No.
Okay. So yes, so as you mentioned, that initial flash came whilst having coffee. My initial flash came whilst having coffee is the answer.
Yeah, but the M, you know, it wasn't talked about very much. It was just always present, and I think I must have nicked it from somewhere, and I've worked out where. I'm not going to spoil where, but it doesn't really matter anyway. But it just kind of came about. So it was like a presence everywhere, but it wasn't really mentioned very much. But I'm all about sort of tone, and I get a lot of my ideas from the general tone that music conveys, and you can't really put it into words. You just got to have a certain thought or a feeling that goes with that game or series, and that's how I do my stuff nowadays.
Yeah, you definitely conveyed well, yeah, I think tone's probably the right word, and that was really stand out, I think, during the course of the campaign. It was wonderful to play in, and thank you for running that one and having me in it, and having me back in season 2. So Ronnie says Call of Cthulhu is pretty dark when run with the full background, but compared to Cult, that background is light and lovely. Cult is pretty dark, and I do have very strict no one under 18 policy on it. Now, I don't know how I'd feel about making a video that was over 18s only, though. I've had to do it to a couple of videos, but that was in retrospect. And
perhaps you could, perhaps we could do the session off air, but then maybe you could talk about it afterwards, like on a video or something like that.
No, I think if you're going to show people a system, you've got to show people a system and just talk about it. And, well, I mean, you can, but that's like the point of that series is live plays. But let's not talk about the future of my channel. Let's talk about the next question, which is the word under. Let's talk about the next question. I liked Star Wars. I found it a lovely, simple system, easy and light to use. Oh no, sorry, it's not Star Wars. That's Savage Worlds. Yeah, I mean, it's, if I recall correctly, it's just D6 based and much the same as Apocalypse World, except your modifier can go above +2. If I remember rightly. I'm not sure I do. And now there's 8,000 people typing at their keyboards. You're totally wrong, Becky, idiot. But yeah, moving on. Well, you should concentrate on your game, Phil, not us. Moving on.
Pallying.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't disagree, Ronnie.
He is being pally.
Katie says, you're not actually called Mormons in the Dogs rules, but it's pretty clear who they are referring to. Okay, I might accept that. But I might have to, if I was playing in that, I might have to make lots of anti-gay references. Sorry, no, not anti-gay references. Fund Proposition 8 resist, which way around was it? Anyway, whilst advocating polygamy, just because, grr, double grr. Triple grr. No, not down to. I just don't get them. Anyway, moving on. Ronnie, sorry, Forbidden Law 2, Ronnie. Totally, it's completely different. Dogs is about having ultimate moral authority and deciding how to. That's kind of my issue with Mormonism. And that ultimate moral authority actually is kind of my issue with most strains of most variations of the Christian cult. I'm kind of okay with Quakers, but anyway, they're kind of non-offensive. Oh, I need to log into the YouTube thing again to see the questions. So having just like lost a gazillion subscribers by dissing all of Christianity there. Right, there we go. Got the questions back. Here they come. Right. There is a Savage setting called Realms of Cthulhu. More than one option then, it seems. For that. There is a Cthulhu setting, but I don't know what it's called. Power Up Gamers Role-Playing for Accessibility says, if you two could have anyone DM a session for you, who would it be and why?
Oh.
I got about 3 answers to that. Possibly more.
I can't think of anyone specific in mind. Does it have to be like an actual DM, or can it be like a celebrity or something? So does it have to be?
I think it's anyone. It's anyone.
Okay, absolutely anyone. Oh, that's really hard then. I don't know. Wait, yes I do. Like, there's tons of metalheads, like really big metalheads who play D&D. So basically, anyone from Mon Amarth would be really cool, especially the vocalist because he's awesome. There's a few acts as well.
I just get the impression that they'd probably be playing Mythorog.
No. As far as I know, their moral values are not that way inclined.
Okay.
Yeah.
No Thulian Perspective is going to write a comment to that if he ever watches this video and gets that far. There's no moral perspective in Mythorog. Oops, lost a sub.
So who else? Well, like I know Vin Diesel plays it. There are a few other people. I can't remember who they are though, but people I thought, oh yeah, that'd be quite cool. Like different actors who play it.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Obviously, my favorite DM ever is the Rogue DM.
Well, thank you.
But I think if I could have anyone to DM a session, right? This is how much of a subscriber whore I am. I'd have PewDiePie. Give me subs.
But he just like do weird faces and have a face cam.
I would totally outclass him role playing. That's fine. I'd pick up loads of role playing related subs. There's so many people watch that channel. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've seen I think one of his videos. He was talking about moving house. That's it. I don't know what he does. No, all I'm interested in is that subscriber count. I want to hit 10,000. Damn it! It used to be 5,000. They raised the bloody bar on getting to the YouTube studios. I just want to go to YouTube studios. Right. So yeah, there's that. I know a lot of people would say like something like Vin Diesel, obviously famous D&D player. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Don't know him. Don't care. Don't know if I would get.
He is in the Chronicles of Riddick.
Yes. Yeah, the actor.
And stuff. Yes, the actor.
Yeah. So he did all those Fast and Furious films too. Yeah, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. But well, I suppose that could bring me subs. But if I want YouTube subs, which I do because I want to get to YouTube Studios, then it's got to be PewDiePie. Right. Moving on.
I'm just trying to think of a YouTube celeb that I like. I think Jenna Marbles would be quite funny, just because she would like totally break the system and kind of show all the flaws in quite a valid way, and kind of like go, you got a point there. Or she'd like play the game in a really sort of out of the box way. So yeah, I think that'd be quite funny, just as an experiment.
Cool. I think the other one who might make a good GM is a YouTuber called Tom. Oh crikey, what's his name? Tom, I'm gonna have to cover me a moment. Say something. Fine.
Oh, there's Stephen Terabry. I don't know what he's like with D&D and stuff, but he's a really cool metalhead who like does all these really stupid videos about like power metal and what djent sounds like and this, that, and the other, and how to write this kind of song. It's all kind of caricature.
Okay, got the name. So there's a YouTuber called Tom Scott, who's not massive, certainly bigger than me, big enough to be YouTube full time these days. But I find his stuff really interesting, and that is, you know, he goes to different parts of the world, talks about obscure things. He does this series of things you might not know, which is goes to these randomly weird places and talks about them and stuff. It's really interesting stuff. I don't know if he plays D&D or not, but I think it'd be brilliant at it because he's such a good storyteller in his videos. And of course he's got more subs than me, so that would help too. So that would be someone. So yeah, basically anyway to get I'm just a whore for subs. And I love you, so you're on the list. Ronnie says, I think what may be needed to do is a full conversion regarding Cult prior to it being played, so then everyone feels comfortable with it. Whilst I run it dark as it is, I don't want to put... I'm not following this at all.
Conversation.
Full conversation. I thought it said conversion. Right, no. So I thought this was about the whole topic of games porting to each other. Well, I'm quite happy to play the game with you, Ronnie. Whether it's a broadcast game, by the sounds of it, probably not. So, yeah. I'd love to play it with you. I enjoy you as a GM, good GM. Finish the game we're in first. Still waiting for that last episode. Right. Phil B, do you have a store of ideas that you are looking for the right setting to use them in? No. If I need to run an adventure, like if I have no prep time at all, and Jay's familiar with this, like if I've got to run a game with no prep time, I do a travel adventure. You get from there to there, and I'll fill it with some crap along the way. I'll think of something. If you know your world good enough, or you know your environments in between good enough, you think of stuff. The ideas for there are a number of different things that are put in. For example, in a live play game, I'll often do a fight that involves some kind of special mechanic to win. And I'll do that on online games too. I mean, Phil, you yourself played in Return of the Winged Trinity. So you'll have seen interesting mechanical fights in Bleak Wraith. Not Bleak Wrath, this is not Provokers, Bleak Wraith. Very different. I got there first. That was a fight with real hard critical decisions for the characters and stuff. And then the second Bleak Wraith fight with the boat, where you're trying to just sabotage the boat and kill a thing that can't be killed. Those kind of mechanical fights I quite like doing, but they're actually the hardest thing to think up. But NPCs and interactions, that's just knowing your world, knowing what's happening, and knowing what your characters want. And you don't have to plan that. You just create your world in sufficient detail in your mind to know what your characters are going to do. So, I don't know about you, Jay, if you want to take that.
No, that pretty much covers it.
Okay, moving on then. Anybody? That's the GM running question. So yeah, we took it. That's that. Carl Murray says, "Can I slide into your DMs?" I don't know if that's a shoe reference or a sex reference. So moving on, Ronnie Bradley.
I think it's a really rubbish sex reference.
Okay. Ronnie Bradley, I hope that one day
I've never had sex with a letter before.
Sex is a letter, did you say?
No, I said I've never had sex with a letter before. He's apparently shaped like a letter C.
Oh, what, the Avatar or something?
No, that's his picture.
Okay. Well, I could hold that pose for you if you like. Right. Ronnie Bradley, I hope that one day I become worthy of being considered. Is this the one-shot thing? Considered tell me what for, I'll consider you. You're a good friend. It's fine. All's good. The Power 008 says, hello back, Power 008. Yes, it's true. You type here, and an hour later we'll eventually get to your message. Hopefully not too much longer because I want to go to bed soon. So, Ronnie Bradley, you could that Marco or David Ducker. I haven't experienced either of them as GMs, but David Ducker does do a series of videos explaining his GM techniques, and I think I would be offended if he ran a game for me. I suspect it's not somebody I'm looking. I haven't signed up for any of his games. It's not. I generally don't, because I think his GM style and me is just not compatible. Marco, I played with once as a rant video on my channel testifies. So, moving on. Phil B, don't know if you've been asked this already because I was late, but what system would you like to try?
You've pretty much already answered that.
Yeah.
I realised that I wanted to try Savage Worlds and Cult, so there you go. Savage Worlds and Cult.
And I'm just a whore for trying obscure systems. Lucifer says, hello, Lucifer.
Hail Satan.
Say hello to Jesus for me. Might be 2 episodes. Oh, right, this is the game we're playing with Ronnie, Serenade and Silver. It says might be 2 more episodes. You know why there might be 2 more episodes? It's 3 weeks since he's run a game. It's had a load of ideas.
Yeah.
I thought we were so near the end. So, hi, Steffi. So one of our returnable Infinity players has arrived incredibly late in the stream.
Hope Scotland is treating you well.
Oh, they're not managing to arrange their own EU strategy, are they? So they're following the same downhill path as the rest of us. It's all downhill from here. I'm thinking of buying a load of foreign currency. The pound just keeps dropping and dropping. Sorry, you're trying to avoid politics. Sorry, yeah, I'm not. I have no boundaries with this stuff. You know this. But this is fine. We're getting personal conversation. Moving on. Next question. There's a lot of right. So Power Up Gamers for Role Playing for Accessibility says, laughed my ass off. I had a one-shot for Dragon Grin called Bleak Wrath as well. Okay, yeah. We're quite close to caught up then, by the sounds of it. Yeah. Well, to be honest, the reason I called a character in my game Bleak Wraith is because I heard that Matt Click was going to call his season 2 Bleak Wrath. I thought I would get myself indexed for any misspelling of that, because I'm a whore for stealing YouTube views. And I also thought Bleak Wrath, maybe this is a US UK thing, but I didn't think Bleak Wrath was a very good word. And Bleak Wraith is kind of an awesome word. Just by adding that letter I, it just becomes amazing. So I wanted to show him up.
What about Bleak Wrath?
Bleak
Wrath.
It just doesn't. It's not
I'm
2 words you
doing
put together.
movements now with my mouth that probably looks a bit weird. Bleak Wrath.
It's
I'm a singer. I'm allowed to think about mouth shapes and phonetics.
That's fine. All I'm saying is Wrath and Wrath do not go with bleak. Wraith is called whatever word you put it with.
Bleak
Apple
Wraith.
Wraith. Banana Wraith.
Bleak and the E and the A are quite similar vowels in English. So, yes, they do fit well together.
What, Bleak Wrath or Bleak Wraith?
No, Bleak Wraith.
Yes.
Because it's E and A.
Wraith goes with any word. Literally any word.
How about Buxton Wraith?
Totally works.
Oakles Wraith.
I don't know what an oakle is, but that sounds cool.
It's a beer.
Dice Tower Wraith.
Ultra Stick Wraith. I'm just looking at random stuff on my desk.
Go for single words. I think it works with single words really well.
Binatone Wraith.
Binatone? That's a... Wow, are they still in business?
Yeah.
Okay. But you see, it just goes for any word. You put Wraith just works because it has that sense of looming death and that just undeady creepiness about it, and just it works. Like put it with a place name, you know that place is going to fuck you up.
Kitten Wraith.
Kitten Wraith.
Steffi's put Kitten Wraith.
Kitten Wraith. Yes.
Oh, apparently Deadpool has joined the party. Oh my god. What an honour.
Pardon?
I'm looking ahead. I'm looking
Right.
ahead
Okay.
just see how the flow of the
Let's
chat's
go
going.
ahead. Come on. We're quite close to ending, and I do want to sleep. So,
You're fizzling out.
Brutal Wolf. Oh, Steffi's been gaming tonight, so sounds like somebody died. Of being a GM, you'd put in your short. You're already in the short. I'm already in your game, Ronnie. Like you made it to the top of the shortlist, and we are playing. Don't be so melodramatic. Love you loads. You're doing fine. Mention them both in mirth. That's fine. They're both deplorable. What two things was he mentioning? Can't remember. Can you remember?
I don't know.
No, can't remember. Next question. Come on, computer. There we go. Sean Driscoll. Hello. I like the new Westworld setting from HBO. It's slowly revealed as the series goes. Player characters, us the viewer, are in the dark. I haven't seen Westworld. That's HBO's an American channel, isn't it?
Never heard of it.
HBO, yeah, it's a cable channel in the US that basically, I think it's kind of left leaning as channel goes. So basically, the only people who watch it are stealing it, so they're broke and haven't got any money, something like that. Yeah, don't know Westworld. Sorry, hasn't made it over here yet. I mean, I can watch HBO pretty much day after it's broadcast and type stuff, you know. But I haven't heard of it, so I wouldn't go looking for it. So, yes, hello, Deadpool. I kind of just feel like I should say something more funny there, you know, because it's Deadpool.
I know, but I haven't actually seen
reference.
It's embarrassing.
Really? Wow. No, you need to make some sexual reference.
I know that. I just don't know what kind. I don't want to seem out of place.
Yeah, to be honest, from high, I'm not sure there's an awful lot I can do other than rubbing myself along the word you know. I just I can picture that in my mind being quite pleasurable at points. Just if there's walking along the moving on. I just randomly appeared. Yeah, I just randomly said I'd walk along a word and find it pleasurable. So, hey. Phil B says, what's the beer of choice for Friday? I don't know.
Oh, well. You may have seen, if you've watched some of my videos, I've kind of got into the habit of picking a beer with a name that has some kind of relevance to the video. Or the game, rather. So I need to think about that. And then it'll be like a subliminal clue or something if you actually know what beer I'm drinking. Because usually I don't show the bottle because product placement. But yeah. Like, for example, do you remember one time during Clockwork Opera when you were all found out and you realised that the regime was a lie, I actually drank Treason IPA.
Right.
So, see what I did there? You know, treason, get it? So yeah, I'll try and do that some more because it's really fun to do that and be like, look, I'm drinking stuff that you're gonna have happen to you.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, I obviously do it with the song albums, as you know, but that
yes.
To, you know, stuff in the real world. Yep. See people trying out that wraith word with other words, and it just works.
Wraith.
So. DM Critical Fail says, mine is already filled. Mine is either Landlord or I got Cobra. Oh, let's talk about lagers. So
Cobra
it's either got Landlord or Cobra. Yeah, cool, I guess. Yep, brave. Looks like we're very close to the end here. Marco and David Ducker are the two I was referring. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for the prompt. Westworld is being shown on Sky Atlantic. I don't have Sky. Why would I pay £70 a month for television? That just seems insane. I have the internet.
Yeah.
And the capability to VPN from anywhere in the world. No.
We have reached the end of the chat.
Oh, right. We can go to bed. We're in different houses. That's a slight disappointment. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all your conversations. It's been fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of chat. Hang on,
Westworld, wasn't that the who's the guy did Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Was in that? He was in
Will Smith.
Will Smith, yes. He was in a Western film with Clockwork Spider thing, and wasn't that called Westworld or something?
No, it wasn't. No, that was somebody else. No, that was Samuel L. Jackson bollocks. I was thinking of the Quentin Tarantino film.
I think Will Smith was in a Western that was kind of Clockwork Western called Westworld. I wonder if that's what this TV series is based on or something.
Maybe.
Oh, I'm thinking of Wild Wild West. Yes, I am. So thank you very much. It's been a blast as always. Yeah, absolutely. It's been great. Love having you all here, and lots of viewers today too. Really cool. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll be back next Wednesday with another video on my channel. I know my promo stuff still says improving your game every Monday. It's actually improving your game every Wednesday these days. I must get around to updating that graphic, and one day I will eventually. So eventually, but on Friday, a Clockwork Saga over on the Rogue GM's channel, and that's going to be awesome. I love that campaign. It's just going to be so great. Season 2. I'm so looking forward to it. So we'll see you then, and until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.